Well, Andrew Wilson, welcome to Trigonometry.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Great to have you on. Tell us about you, your background, how you've come to be where you are, and also, some of the things that you've become well known for talking about and debating.
Well, I'm known as maybe the premier blood sport debater on the right-wing side. I debate almost every issue imaginable from a Christian foundational view, including politics. So the way I got in the space was by pure accident. It was during COVID-19. They had shut all the businesses down. I was a robotics mechanic, and I worked in meat plants. And they shut those down in Michigan because the governor at the time, her name is Gretchen, she's still the governor, Gretchen Whitmer. That was part of like her whole device for Michigan was shutting everything down. So I was basically furloughed. And when that was happening, I was extremely pissed off. And so what I did was I went on Facebook and other places like this and started arguing with progressives, much like the Coomer Gremlin, who you recently debated, people like that. And some of them actually had little video shows. And so I'd started asked to come up and talk to them. Hey, why don't you have me up on your little show here? And then I'd go on the show and obliterate them. And after a while, that picked up a little bit of steam. People started putting it on YouTube. And then the content became popularized. And here I am. Never thought in a million years I'd be an entertainer. And I never thought in a million years that I would be engaged in as many high-profile debates as I have been.
And why do you enjoy doing this? Because a lot of people think it's a weird thing to do.
So, I mean, just like, if you want me to be blunt.
Why do you hate leftists?
Because they're psychopaths who are going to destroy everything that I care about through suicidal empathy.
Do you mean progressives or do you mean leftists?
Both.
Like the entire left?
I consider the delineation of the threshold minute.
Because?
Because when you really get into the granularity, it's all about ethics, and they don't have any. And so because there's no ethical foundation, all you're talking about is degrees of psychopathy.
What about people who just want like a little bit more wealth redistribution, but generally they love America? I mean, those people, they are decreasing in percentage on the left, but they do exist, right?
Why do they want it?
Because they think they have a different vision to the right of human nature, and they think that a lot of things that happen to people in life are partly about luck and structures and stuff like that. So they think that they think the right massively overestimates the consequences of agency. So the idea that sometimes, the caricature of the right would be, well, everyone gets what they deserve because it's a matter of your hard work and talent and application and whatever. And the left, the sensible left, I think, says, well, sure, but luck is a big part of it. There, by the grace of God, go we. Therefore, if someone is struggling, not everyone is struggling because they didn't put in the effort. Sometimes it happens, people get sick, accidents happen, whatever. So we should look after people a little bit more than the people who want the lowest taxes possible. That would be the Steelman argument, I think.
Okay, so that makes sense. So the idea here is social safety nets, right?
Right.
Okay, so how come those aren't voluntary?
Well, probably because you can't achieve the level of redistribution you want without applying some level of force.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because the entire idea of progressive liberalism is supposed to be voluntarism, and that the left-wing government does not force you or compel you to do anything. That's the promise.
No, the point of government is to make people do what they don't want to do.
Completely agree. But the promise of the leftists, the promise of the progressive, the reason they demand that we have a secular government and we can't move towards Christian ethics or Christian nationalism is because secularists are going to do what's fair. And what's fair is you can do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anybody else. We're not going to force you to do anything. The evil Christian nationalists will. But here you just laid out a case for how it is that they're compelling me against my will to do various things.
Well, right. I mean, any government is about the thing that really defines a state is the legalized use of force. It's all about the
totally
use of
agree.
Force, right?
That's what the state is.
Yeah, of course. But see, I think if we want to have a discussion about progressives being idiots, like we're going to be on the same page with that one. But we were talking about distinction between the center left, I guess, and the progressives. Mm-hmm. And I was saying, isn't there quite a lot of reasonable people on the center left who would agree with us that the state is about shaping human behavior and making people do stuff, but what they want is well motivated and actually based on some rationale that we might agree or disagree, but it's kind of logical, which is about a higher level of, like, I don't believe in zero taxes and no government redistribution at all, personally, right? So therefore, it's just a matter of degrees. And it's about, is it, 5% taxes or, 20% taxes? But once you start getting into the high 80s, that's where I'm at. You know what I mean? Like do you see what I'm getting at? So that's where I think sometimes in these arguments, the existence of the reasonable center right and the reasonable center left gets lost because we're constantly arguing with the extremes of the other side.
Well,
is that fair?
Yeah, I guess, but maybe we can dive into semantics a bit.
If you want.
Okay. So when you say right or left, you agree with me that's dialectical?
What do you mean by dialectical?
Like...
they're opposites of each other, you mean?
Well, not just that, but when we view politics in the paradigm in the United States, we view it through a dialectic that is dual. It's left, it's right. So even you said center left, that's plays within a dialectic, right? Yes, there's a center, but it's still left or right. Right?
Well, there is it gets more, I don't mean to be pedantic either, but this is where it gets more difficult because someone could actually be in the center, meaning they have some center right opinions and some center left opinions that don't neatly align with either party. And I think the existence of those people is probably quite underestimated, even in a country as polarized as this one, just from talking to people.
Maybe.
Yeah, but dialectic, I think I agree with.
Yeah, so there's a dialectic. So when we say left, what's the referent? And when we say right, what's the referent? Like, what are we referencing here?
Well, the position relative to the center.
Sure, maybe, but I mean, what is left and what is right politically? Is it social issues? Is it taxes? Is it a mixture of both?
Mixture of both.
Mixture of both. Okay,
right.
So I think that we can break it down further into pillars. So I think that these are philosophical positions and people just don't realize it.
Most wallets still plug into the same system we were trying to escape in the first place. And that's why Rumble built Rumble Wallet. It's a self-custodial wallet that lives inside an ecosystem that actually defends free speech and financial freedom. No bank holding your balance, not even Rumble can touch your funds. This is your money, on your keys, on your terms. So if you're serious about sovereignty, financial and digital, this is where you level up. Go to wallet.rumble.com or search Rumble Wallet in your app store, download it, back up your recovery phrase, and move your money where it belongs, in your hands.
When you're arguing with a guy like Destiny, the reason he's very frustrating for you to debate with, the reason that he wanted to bog things down into things like the most ridiculous thing in the world, though it's unprecedented. Everything's unprecedented. That's unprecedented, right? The whole idea there, and you pointed this out rightly, is, well, I guess words don't mean anything, right? We just use unprecedented, I guess, when we mean new. When we get down to the core, the pillar that holds up the belief of Destiny, what is it? What is the pillars that hold up the left? What is the philosophical underpinnings?
I don't know in his case. I think in his case, actually the philosophical underpinning is people who don't agree with him are bad people and therefore they need to be destroyed by any means necessary. I think that's it. So it's about power, really.
Well, I think the idea, the philosophical underpinnings operate from the left-right dialectic. The left-wing pillar is based around anti-realism, anti-moralism. So that's why you end up with postmodernism and many of these other philosophies which come from left-wing liberalism. Those aren't coming from right-wingers, those are coming from left-wingers. Right-wingers are, the reason that they're so much more associated with things like traditionalism or things like religion, this kind of thing, is because they view society as being duty-bound, and progressives view everything through the prism of rights. So I have a right to do this, I have a right to do this, I have a right to do that. And the right is saying you have a duty to do this, you have a duty to do that, you have a duty. So this is where that dialectic really clashes. From Destiny's standpoint, there's no such thing as a moral fact. None. They don't exist. Everything is dependent upon stance. So if that's the case, you can't actually do anything immoral, which is why he does so many things which are immoral, right? Because from his perspective, it's just dependent on stance. The right is saying there's universality with morality. It's not just stance dependent, it's stance independent. The reason that they get so upset with the left is because they perceive them as doing things which are horrendously immoral. But from the left stance, they're like, well, but it's all stance dependent, so I can't be doing anything immoral. And that's why the underpinnings for the kind of like philosophical pillars, they don't align, and why we're constantly clashing. The right considers these people complete immoral degenerates, and from their view, they are. The left, on the other hand, sees that as being totalitarian and evil, and that they're there to control, destroy, oppress. Because from their view, what could they be doing immoral if everything which is moral is dependent on their own stance?
Right. Which I think is an accurate description of what happens when the right looks at the extremes of the left and the left looks at the extremes of the right. But what I'm trying to get in with you, first of all, because it's interesting to me, because our country, hard as it is to believe, if you look at social media, is not nearly as divided as the US, right? Like the binariness of the US is kind of weird for us a little bit, coming from the UK. So I guess to me, it's always weird when people, well, I was going to say acknowledge, but I don't want to impose my view because, you know, Americans know their country better than I do. It's weird to me how little people give faith to the other side. And I see this on the left and I see this on the right. Whereas my model for the world is there's like really good people within the 80% middle, and then there's pretty out there people on the extremes. And what we see on the internet is those people arguing and pretending they represent the entire movement. And then the other side's incentivized to argue as if they represent the entire movement as well. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Right.
Sure. I understand what you're saying, and that sells, right? It sells to be on that extremist end.
Right.
That's what makes it fun. It makes it fun to watch people who come in and they say ridiculous over the top things, and then everyone's arguing, right? That's part of human nature. They want the fun. However, I do think that people are more divided than you think. I think that there's the way that we operate in public in survival mode. We'll be pretty nice to each other. Good morning. How are you? No one's going to like run you off the road because you're a Democrat. They might run you off the road if you're a Trump supporter and you have that stick. But for the most part, we'll treat each other fairly well. But when you start to get to the underpinnings of what people actually believe, there's a lot more hatred here than you think on both sides. And it's even from the center. It becomes apparent once you start to get to the underpinnings of the pillars which hold up people's beliefs.
Do you think that's kind of why there used to be a rule that you don't talk about religion and politics at the table? Because when you start digging, like if you really pursue people's beliefs to the very ends of the earth, you do find out like people do fundamentally disagree because they have a different philosophical view. But if we don't constantly talk about this stuff, it's actually easier to get on with each other.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
So,
well, that used to be a thing in the workplace, and it used to be a thing like you said around the dinner table with family. You call your family in, and it's like, hey, we're all going to have dinner. We're not talking politics. We're not talking about. We're not talking right. These are the divisive issues, right? Love, politics, and of course that's what everybody's talking about all the time now. But with the internet, this was bound to happen. Now you can have ideologies which are exported and imported. And they can be exported and imported quickly. And so because of that, you can have, whole swaths of a population begin to move towards an ideology which they never would have before because there was no way to basically deliver it. But now there is. And so now it's a race for power. It's made the best ideology win. And from my view, if it's not Christians who win it, then it's going to be somebody else who wins it. And Christians going to be ruled by whoever that is. Whatever ideology that is. But if you think that I'm wrong, explain Hassan Piker, explain Vosh, explain the rise of communism in the United States and the brand new communist lens in which many leftist progressives are now looking. These are the most popular streamers. Well, that ideology was all but dead, but now it's reemergent through the technology of the internet and introduced to a whole new generation as being edgy and countercultural, just like it was the first time.
Do you not think that the reason that we have seen this resurgence of communism as someone who comes from a country who sadly embraced it?
Britain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's not. We are
embracing. I laugh at my own joke, but it was a good one.
Yeah,
anyway.
We are embracing it, which is Venezuela. Do you not just simply think that people grasp for anything when things are getting particularly difficult?
You mean for any type of ideology?
Yeah.
Sure, but what's difficult here?
Well, the gap between rich and poor is ever widening.
But you have a problem there, right? That's true. but people are still getting richer than they've ever been. It's like when I think of a gap between rich people and poor people, if we go back 500 years or 1,000 years, the difference was you lived in a dung heap and this guy lived in a castle. Now the difference is this guy lives in a castle and you live in a 3-bedroom apartment. It's like, it is true that the guy living in the castle is richer than the guy in the castle has ever been. But the reason you're not in a dung heap is because the poor are also richer than they've ever been. And so it's scalable. It's a matter, it's a matter of scalability. But show me in the first country in the world, where's all the starving people? Where are they?
But it's all understood within context, isn't it, Andrew? It's comparisons. So people will go online, they will look at their life, they will see that they don't have a lot of money, somebody else is doing very well. Things like, for instance, a housing crisis, particularly in cities like New York, LA, etc.
Yeah, so this is a strict materialist view. The thing is like, I don't know when this shift happened to strict materialism, but this seems to be part of a new conversation which people want to have. And again, that's part of what communism is. The lens of communism is strictly materialist. There is no spiritualism. Communists kill anybody who's religious because that affects a materialist view. It's an oppressor-oppressed class. So if you're looking through everything from a materialist view, you can always find an oppressor class. There'll always be people who have more than other people do. It's one of the big faults with communism. You can never reach this stateless utopia. But as far as that goes, when I think historically, the endless suffering that happened to people inside of nation states, inside of city states, inside of places like that, in comparison to what you see in modern Western democracies, it's like, if these people had to deal with that in any capacity, they would, you just fall over dead. It was miserable. It was literally misery. Where is all of that? I mean, the West conquered that. Industrialization conquered that. The starvation's gone. Where is it? You know, I've heard liberals, they've said to me, there's people starving right now. Where? In my nation? Where? I'll go feed them right now. Guarantee you I'll have a meal arranged by this afternoon if you could show me a person who's actually starving in the United States. They can't, because they're not. We've conquered it. These are conquered issues. Like, so what are you just bitching that this guy makes way more money than this guy? It's like, what's the complaint? You know, that's achievable. That sort of dream's achievable now to people. That never used to be possible.